Why? It's not like she understands anything we're saying.
You know what? I had just about enough of your attitude. Hello? Are you listening?
iPod. They were made to ignore the stepmother.
George?
Honey, would you take those things off, please?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Coffee Time with Byron. This is episode number 48. I am your host, Byron. We are broadcasting live on YouTube and available next day on Anchor, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and other apps I'm not sure of. But alongside me via Zoom is former NHL referee Paul Devorski. How are you doing today? Are you staying safe? And how's life been since being retired?
It's been good. I've actually been really busy. I just got home today. I was at a game in Washington last night, and once I retired, they hired me as a supervisor to go watch the officials. I was down there last night, watched the officials, and came home today, and I'm heading to Philadelphia tomorrow night.
Well, there you go. So what is your role now? Are you like an ambassador in the games with the many years you've been refereeing? What are you to the game nowadays?
Basically, I work with all the young referees that we've hired. So if they're on a game, they'll assign me to a game where the young refs are on, and I'll go watch and critique them and try to help them out, as they go along. Because, I know I needed help when I first started, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Because, it says right here you refereed your first NHL game October of 1989. Go figure, on this day. Go figure, October 14th. Go figure. Yeah. Same day. Well, that's what I'm reading here. You refereed your first game. So, take us through that. What was it like refereeing your first game, and how were you trained to know the rules compared to how different they are to this day?
Well, let's just say back then, I didn't call very much. Like we had our standard wasn't that tight. So, you probably let a lot more of the slashing on the hands and stuff like that go. And I remember that night that I was in Hartford. And Joe Quenville was playing on defense for Hartford. The coach for Edmonton was on the team. What's his name?
Gretzky?
And Kay Whitmore, who works now for the NHL, he was in net. He was a goaltender. So it's pretty good to look back on those memories. I brought my dad down to the game in Hartford, brought him in from golf, and there was a one-man system for referees, and I had Kevin Collins and Brian Murphy on the lines with me. So it was a different era back then, because, like I said, we didn't call a lot of penalties. We kind of let stuff go until it erupted, and then we got involved. So
now, before you retired, you sort of refereed into the newer rules, what they are today. Which did you like better as a referee? The no calls that you said you had to hardly make back when you started, or before you retired, the rules changing to what they are now? Which did you like calling better?
For me, you are a lowly accountant.
I mean, I like the older style, because that's the way I was, let them play. When somebody breaks a wrist or whatever, okay, I'll call a penalty. But I can see what they're doing today now because the game, like even last night, the game was just, it's all about speed now. No touching and grabbing, and there's hardly any, well, we did have a lot of penalties last night because it was New York and Washington.
Right.
And we were expecting a big payback from on Tom Wilson, but nothing happened. And usually, I find for now, like we only have about 5 penalties a game on an average night because it's all about speed. We don't have many scrums anymore on the ice. Where guys are mucking around and wanting to fight. Like, we don't have that. Very seldom do we have that now.
Now, since you lived it, I know you weren't a player, but you lived it because you were right there on the ice with them, and you watched them do it. What's your stance on fighting? Did you like seeing them fight? Did you want to break them up? What was your stance on the fighting? Did you enjoy that, watching them do that?
My thought was to let them go. Like, let the 2 guys fight. And if somebody was getting, bothered or getting the shit out of them, the linesman would jump in right away. If the guy's hurt, we gotta get in, or bang, he took a good shot to the head, like, we gotta get in there. So, but for the most part, we would let them go, and then they would pick themselves up and go to the box.
So when the fight does break out, and it does happen, so if the player isn't knocked out completely, you just let them go for, is there a time limit you let them go for if they don't break it up? Like, what happens in the scrummage there? Because I know the refs hear what they go on. So.
Well, they'll jump in right away if they think somebody's hurt. Like, right away, if they think there's a knockout punch, they'll jump out. But if there's 2 guys going at it, like, they usually tire themselves out, and then they're not throwing punches anymore, and they're hanging on, and then our guys will jump in because they both had enough, and they just want to go sit in the box.
So, what would you say out of your career? I know you've been a part of some memorable games. Is there one that particularly stands out to you the most that you refereed, that you remember the most?
Well, there's probably 2 games. There's Game 7 of 1989 finals, Stanley Cup finals. 7 between Detroit and Pitt in Detroit. And I remember I brought my son Luke, 13-year-old, he was 13-year-old, got him to the game and got him a seat somewhere, and I just remember that game was, unbelievable, and like right to the last 3 seconds, Lindstrom was right. I'm thinking he's going to tie it up, and he shoots, and I think it was Flair. Flair comes over, makes a save, bang, and game over. And that was a pretty cool game. But the other one involves Detroit again, and it's Detroit and Colorado. And I don't know if you've ever seen it. It was the night they brawled all over the ice, the goalies. I think it was payback for Claude Lemieux. Dan McCarty went after Claude Lemieux and just kicked the crap out of him.
I think I actually do remember that game.
Yes, and I was very stubborn, and I'm thinking, you know what, payback is a bitch, and I should have thrown Darren out, but I gave him 2 for instigating, 5 for fighting, and a 10-minute misconduct. And, I just remember Brian Burke was my boss then. He called me the next day and said, "You think you could have called a couple more penalties?" And it's funny, I just saw Darren McCarty last week when I was in Detroit, and he looked at me, and he just came over and gave me a big hug, and he wanted to take a picture with me with his cell phone. So, I mean, that was pretty cool.
So you were part of, before you retired, you were part of the NHL lockout season in 04 and 05. Going into that season, what did the NHL tell you as referees, and when did you guys know you guys would be going back into the full season?
We didn't find out until the news was released.
Mm-hmm.
We found out like days before we knew we were going back, and then we set up a training camp for us so the guys could come back in and get on the ice and that, and then we went from there.
In your mind, did you think you want to retire during that, or did you want to wait it out and then continue on your career like you did at the time of the lockout?
I wasn't ready to retire. I mean, people said, how did you like your job? I said, well, it really wasn't a job because I was out on the ice having fun and enjoying what I did. And, you're talking to players, you're talking to coaches, and I mean, it wasn't a job for me. I mean, it paid well, but, the bad part of it was you missed. Back then, you'd have to fly out on Christmas Day, you wouldn't be home for New Year's Eve, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then, that's all covered. The guys are all home for that now.
So you officiated, it looks like, the 2010 Vancouver Olympics. What was that experience like in officiating the Olympic Games with the country?
It was. I mean, in Canada, it was really good.
Was it different? Was it a different set of rules than the NHL? Did you have to learn a whole new set of rules?
No, they basically went by the same set of rules that we play by, except for the fighting rules and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't allow fighting in that, but I always remember the Torino Olympics in 2006, and I ended up being lucky to do the gold medal game. And I think it was between Finland and Czechoslovakia.
Sweden, actually. Close.
What?
Close. Sweden. Yeah.
Sweden and Czech.
Yep.
I just remember after Sweden won, that Matt Sundin just coming over, like running and hugging me because he had done. So anytime I saw any of the guys back in the NHL when I was working, like they were all my buddies, because they kind of very mellow, and that was pretty good.
So then, now let's go with this. You officiated your final game 2015 in Philadelphia. What do you remember from that night? Because you guys were playing, you guys had the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Philadelphia Flyers. What do you remember about that night?
Well, as you know, Philly has some pretty tough fans.
Yes, they do. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, they do.
So we started the game, and first 3 or 4 penalties that I called all went against Philly. And it was at the end, at the start of the second period, they were supposed to do something on the Jumbotron showing me that Devorski was retiring. And So I remember the guy calling me over with about 2 minutes left to go in the first and said, Paul, we're going to hold off on that, showing that because the fans are, so they ended up showing it in the third period on a commercial break, and I mean, I give the fans credit. They did give me a good round of applause. They didn't boo or anything like that.
Did you think it was going to be a boo?
Well, I wasn't sure, you know. But as you know, Philly and Pittsburgh, they don't get along anyways when they play each other.
No.
So,
No.
and then, yeah, it was a good night. My whole family was down and that, so went out for dinner after the game.
Was there a player in your career that ever gave you the fits? Who gave you the fits the most? As a referee that you always threw in the box, you gave penalties to. Who was the player that always gave you the fits?
Oh, there was really never anybody that bad. I mean, you knew the guys that were going to take penalties, but like I would say, like Claude Lemieux was like he was sneaky. You had to watch him, you know. But he really didn't say much when he got in the box. He took his penalty, you know, and for the most part, they were very respectful. Like they didn't say much when they got in the box, you know. They were more mad at the other player than they were more mad at me. Yeah.
I could see that. I could see that. But there's got to be a little stick in them that's got to be mad at the ref too a little bit for calling that and seeing that.
Oh yeah, and you know what? There was times like a coach like John Tortorella.
Oh God. Okay, yeah. I can see that.
I had him one night. He was coaching Vancouver and it was against Anaheim. And he had two players that just went nuts at one stoppage. And they both got 7 minutes each. Okay? So Anaheim's on a 5-on-3 for 7 minutes. And Tortorella just called me over. He says, you know, he's screaming at me, da-da-da. He says, you don't have the balls to kick me out of the game. I said, yeah, Torts, I do. I said, I'm going to keep you on the bench so I can watch your team get their ass kicked.
What did he say to that? What did he say to that after you told him?
And he just kind of looked at me, but to give Torts credit, when I came out at the start of the next period, he said, get over here. And he came over and he says, he grabbed my hand and shook it. He says, we're cool, right? Torts, it's all forgotten. And to this day, like he's one of the best coaches I've ever reffed. You know what? I gotta respect. Yeah, John Tortorella.
So who were the coaches that got to you under your skin? Were there any? I know we all talk about players, but what about coaches besides Tortorella? And he joked with you on that, but any other coaches?
Mike Babcock used to get a little upset, you know.
I could see that one. He's tempered.
Yeah. And who else? I mean, I remember Joe Quenneville going at me one night, and then the next game I saw him, he just started kind of calling me over, was kind of laughing about it, and he says, sorry for losing on you. You know, I just don't like Joe Workman, or I call him Q. So, but yeah, other than that was, you know, Scotty Ballmer was unbelievable in Detroit. You know, every time I see him, he wants to talk about, you know, you know, when we did the finals with him and all that. Because he won a few cups while he was in Detroit. So, yeah, Scotty Bowman was a good one.
Now, when you're on the ice skating with the players, I know you guys try to stay far away from the players. How often is it that you guys ever get hurt from a player ever like coming at you mistakenly? You know, if they get bored into the boards or what? Do you guys ever get hurt a lot?
I would say not a lot, but yes, it does happen. Where a guy will, like the linesman's at the blue line and the guy's skating, and all of a sudden he loses his, and then he falls down and starts sliding, and he takes that linesman out, and he goes back flying. I mean, that happens, you know, which was purely accidental, but I remember one night, it was in Detroit again. I took a puck in the rear and took 23 stitches. I went in between periods, laid down, they stitched me up, and I went back out and did the third.
Gamer. There you go.
I don't think that, I mean, I was kind of dumb on my part, because I probably could have had a concussion or something from getting a puck like that.
True, but you're a gamer at least. You went in there and stuck it out.
Yeah.
Not many people would.
I wanted to finish it up, so.
What's your relationship with the only other official I know besides you, Wes McCauley? How is he as an official? Did you train him, or did you do a lot of games with him? How is your relationship with Wes McCauley?
Well, you know what? It's funny because Wes was doing the game last night in Washington. I supervised, and when I got hired in 1987, it was Wes's father, John McCauley, who hired me, who was the boss at the time.
Right.
And then he died. He died suddenly about 3 or 4 years later. And then Wes got into the business, and yeah, I got to work a lot with Wes, and I have a great, he's probably one of the officials I have a great relationship with, the best relationship, you know. I mean, he called me today, we talked about last night's game because it was a wild kind of news, and I'm going to see him tomorrow night when I go down to Philly, and he's good. He's a great ref, and he's a good people person too.
Now let's talk a little about today's game and some teams, if you don't mind. For instance, my Lightning, since I live in the area. How many games did you ever get to officiate of theirs? And any good games that you refereed with them? Did you referee any of the playoff games that they had in their first Stanley Cup year?
What year was that?
04?
No, that's the year I had neck surgery.
Oh, okay.
And I missed it, yeah. And they played Carolina that year, right?
Yeah, they did.
I think.
Yep.
Yeah. And I was supposed to work the finals that year, and because I had the neck surgery, I missed out. So.
Happens.
I got to Tampa multiple times every year, and I just loved going down there. You know, you stayed at the hotel, and then you walk right across the street to the arena. It was great.
Now, I've been in the crowd where the fans are rowdy. You were on the ice plenty of times and witnessed that. Are they as rowdy as, let's say, a lot of people are saying this is hockey town now, not Detroit? Would you think that the same way with the crowd?
You mean in Tampa?
Yeah.
I mean, they were loud, but I didn't think they were, over the top. Like, they were, you could definitely hear them, but it didn't bother you. It just, it got you up for the game because you heard all this noise, And, but it definitely got louder and louder as the series went on,
Now, in your career, did you have any controversial calls that people might think was controversial that went against the team or a team that you officiated?
Yeah, I remember one call. It was Game 7. It was Washington and Philadelphia. And Bruce Boudreaux was coaching Washington at the time. And my best friend growing up was George McPhee, who was the GM for Washington at the time. And the game went into overtime, and I remember calling a trip against Washington, and Philadelphia scored the winning goal all the time. And I just felt sick to my stomach after the game. Because it was Bruce, who was my neighbor, who lived on the same street with me, who was coaching in Washington, and George, one of my best friends. So, I remember driving home that night, and George called me, and I'm pretty sure I broke down because I felt so bad. So the next day, I get a knock on the door, and I open up, and it's Bruce Boudreaux.
Yeah, there you go.
There he goes. Hey, we're still buddies, eh? Yeah, that one stands out.
So take us through a bad call. What happens? Is it just a call of a moment thing where you think you're doing the right call, you think you made the right call, but then you go back and look at the game before there was replay, and then now that there's replay, and then you say you made the wrong call after you watched the replay. How much does that really sting?
Well, you really don't get to see the replay when you're doing the game. But you do afterwards. But there's times in a game where I remember I think it was Brad Richards who was coaching Columbus. And I called a penalty against their team. And as soon as I put my arm up, I said, oh, that's not a penalty. The guy, he didn't trip and he stumbled, and the guy's stick was right there. But because my arm was up, I had to call the penalty. So I went over to the bench to talk to Brad. I said, Brad, I'm so sorry. I said, that was the worst freaking call ever. I said, I'm sorry. He said, don't worry, people. Don't worry. So I turned around, I get my hands on my knees ready for the face-off. And all I hear behind me is Brad Richards. Okay, guys, let's kill this one off for Devo.
There you go. There you go.
And I look at him, and he's smiling at me, and So, I find when you're totally honest with them, when you just tell them,
right?
Just say, hey,
right?
Do that.
Right.
Instead of trying to sugarcoat it and say, well, it's the right call.
Yeah.
It wasn't the right call.
Now, is there, out of all the penalties that are in the game, is there one that you really hate calling the most that really, really, really sucks life out of the game? Is there one that you hate the most in the rule book?
No, I think all the penalties are legit, you know? The one penalty I wish that was called more was embellishment. Because I find these guys, you know, they get a little hit and all of a sudden, you know, their legs go and the guy hit them on the shoulder, like, briefly.
Oh yeah, flopping, like what the NBA has. Yeah. Okay, I got you. Yeah.
Or like, you know, or like the guys in soccer, like it's terrible.
Yeah.
And I tell our guys, like, if you get the chance, don't call both. Just take the one guy for embellishment, for diving. That's the one thing that, you know, we got to get rid of out of our game, you know?
I agree.
Yeah.
I don't like it in any sport, but a lot of people still do it. A lot of athletes still try and get away with it. Like you said, soccer's the main culprit, and so is basketball.
Yeah. Right.
It's ridiculous. But I agree. So, in your career, like you said, you've had a chance to be a part of some big games. The winter games, the Stanley Cup Finals. Out of those series, out of those series that you called, what would you say? Any of those games that you remember the most? Like, is there one game in particular out of both those series that you remember?
And what was the question again?
Out of the Olympics that you called in the Stanley Cup Finals, you called, is out of the games, all the games that they took place in those series. What do you remember most about them, and what was the most memorable?
Probably like mine in Detroit, Game 7 with Pittsburgh and Detroit when they won 3-2. And like I said, I think it was 2009 that it was. And, you know, I had my son there and everything. And, like, just everything went well that night, you know. And there was no screw-ups or nothing. So, it worked well.
So, like we got into a little bit of lightning. I know you still keep up with it because you know obviously you help the officials, and you go to the games. Is there a team that you think will stand out the most this year? I know it's early in the season because it's only like two games in for a lot of teams. What team do you think will stand out this year, and what will be an underdog team?
Well, I think the Islanders are going to have a strong team. But they were one game of winning from putting Tampa Bay out, and you know who knows if they would have won in the finals. But
right,
they're that close. They were that close, and they have a great GM and Lou Lamoriello, and they have a great coach in Barry Trotz.
Right.
Like, two of them are both great people.
Right.
Other than that, I mean, I would think Tampa, not really after their first game, because it didn't look good.
No, they didn't.
After Pittsburgh beat them.
No.
But I would think they'll be right back in the hunt, you know. I would think Vegas and Colorado are strong contenders in the West, you know.
What about the new team, the Kraken? There's a lot of hype on them.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? I don't know much about them, but I'm going to see them this Monday night. I have another game in Philadelphia, and Seattle's playing there. So
there you go.
Yeah. And actually, my daughter saw that Seattle playing, and she said, "Dad, I'm going to that game."
Mm-hmm. So there you go. Yeah, I'm kind of curious because expansion draft. First time NHL has had 32 teams. First time. It's going to be interesting for them to actually see them because this is a team formed of one player from each teams.
Right.
So I mean, they got let's see, who was it from the Bolts? They got Yanni Gord, who's one hell of a player.
Right.
And I forget who else they got, but I mean, they're going to be an interesting team. The one sleeper team, I would probably have to say, I don't know if you agree, I would have to say might be, I would say Anaheim Ducks, because they got Shattenkirk from the Bolts, and I think he will be a veteran presence to help that team get to the next level. I don't know if you think or can think that, but I think they'll be a sleeper team. Do you have a sleeper team?
Not really, because I haven't really, like I said, last night was my first regular season game, and I really don't know what to think of any teams right now. You know, I wouldn't be able to tell who's going to be placed where or whatever. You know, like I'm interested to see how Philly's going to do tomorrow night. You know, and stuff like that.
So what was it? Because you started in the 80s and worked your way up into the 90s and 2000s. What would you say the main difference from the players are from yesteryear to today? Is it speed? Is it strength? What is it? What shortness? What is it? What's the difference that you've seen in those players from years on?
Back in the day, you had 6'5" guys, great big 240-pound guys playing, and it was all about strength and, you know, being able to hit, and, you know, you had to be able to fight. But now the game has changed. It's all about speed, and if you notice, like, all the players are probably a little smaller because they're so fast now. You know, I mean, we still have big, lean, tall defensemen, but we don't have the great big strapping guys, you know, that we used to have on the ice. And I think it's just all about the speed of the game now and how the game is transitioned. And you know, it's a good game to watch now. I mean, obviously people miss the fighting and that, but some people don't. And I think for the most part, everybody likes the way the game is being played right now.
Now, if you were not retired to this day, with the Olympics coming up, would you have liked to call games in the Olympics coming up? Because I think they're in Beijing this year. Yeah.
Beijing.
Yeah.
Well, I was lucky to call in Toronto and lucky to call in Vancouver. So I would say at this, you know, I would think it'd be time for somebody else to get a good shot at doing the Olympics. You know, and going over and doing it. Like, I mean, I've done 2 Olympics. That's enough. I mean, not that I wouldn't want to do another one, but, you know, there's a lot of guys out there that would love to go and do the Olympics.
Now, how did that process get picked out? How did they pick out the officials? Did our Olympic committee, did countries' Olympic committees pick you guys out? How did that go? How do you remember it going, the process going?
The NHL, our NHL guys, they will pick the guys that they're going to send to Beijing. But we had a big email come out that anybody who was interested in going to Beijing to fill out all these forms, because they needed all this stuff filled out. Mm-hmm. So we'll go through that and see who wants to go, and then they'll send over 3 or 4 refs or 3 or 4 linesmen that are going to go over, and that'll be it.
Now, last topic before we head off. I gotta ask you, last year they played with no fans in the bubble. How do you think that would have, if you were calling games, would you have liked that atmosphere with no fans? Or would you have liked the booing, cheering, whatever goes on in a game?
I think everybody from the players, the coaches, to the refs love the booing and the yelling and the cheering that goes on in the game. You know, it just kind of pumps you up, you know. And in the bubble, it was just a totally different atmosphere because it was just so quiet, and there was nobody in the stands, and we were all watching games. We were standing down by the glass, or we were up in the press box, and I went to Washington last night, and I was walking to the hotel, to the arena, which was 6 blocks away, and I just started looking around, and I went, wow, things ever back to normal, because like the bars were all, you know, they had open doors, they were all full, and everybody had a red Washington jersey on, you know, and it was just crazy downtown, you know, and you could tell that hockey was back.
Now, since you were close to the league last year, were you there for any of those games? Did they allow you to help with the other referees? Were you allowed to go into the bubble?
I was in bubble in Toronto for 60 days. I was there until they went to Edmonton for the finals, and I was actually up, in the bubble for 61 days. So that was a pretty long time to be away from home.
I bet. I bet you. Yeah. I bet you wanted to get home right away, didn't you?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that was brutal. I couldn't imagine that. But
you know what? Give the guys credit, got through it, and you know, nobody was complaining after the Stanley Cup was handed out, and you know,
yeah,
we were getting back to normal.
So, one last question before we let you go. Since you're helping these young referees out, and forever who's watching this, whoever wants to be a referee, what do you want to say to whoever wants to be a referee, and what's the way to getting into the game as a referee? How does that process go about? How can they do that?
Well, it depends where you live, but I would get a hold of your local hockey referee department, you know, what city you live, find out and tell them. But first of all, there is referee schools out there that anybody wants to go to. Don Devorski has ran one for years. And there is definitely referee schools out there. And it's funny you mention that, because I'm going to go to a game in Hershey Sunday in the American League, and we have our first female referee working.
There you go.
Yeah, and I met her up at the training camp, and I'm so excited for her. You know, I can't wish anything but the best for her.
Yeah, because I don't think there's one in the NHL right now, is there?
No, we don't have one.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, we don't have a linesman referee either. And but we did when I went to the American League training camp. They had 2 female linesmen there, which was great, you know. So I'm actually looking forward to watching this girl referee on Sunday.
Yeah, because I think right now you guys and Major League Baseball are the only two sports that don't have female ref slash ump right now in the league. Because I think the NBA has one or two, and then I know for a fact NFL does, because I've seen them on some of the games, so I know for a fact NFL does. So that'd be awesome.
I think that's what we're striving for, like to find the best female we can and hire her in the NHL.
Yeah. Why not? I couldn't see why not get a former player, women's player as a referee. I could see that.
Oh yeah, for sure, because she knows the game, and now that you said that, most of the girls that are officiating are all ex-players that played Division I hockey and
in the national team or something like that.
Yeah.
So I could see that happening.
And honestly, most of the guys that we hire now out of the combine that we have in August, they're all ex-hockey players. They come out of the American League, they come out of AHL, the WHL. They're all ex-players. So it works for us.
Do you find it easier that way to referee anything? Is if you played something like that?
Oh my God!
Do you find it easier that way? Because for one, I don't know if you played. Did you ever play?
I played myself, me, George McPhee, Brian McClellan. We played on the Junior A team in Guelph, and we ended up winning the Centennial Cup. And George went on to Bowling Green, and Brian McClellan, he went on some other school, and they both went pro, and I went pro too, but as a referee. And it was. I found that having the playing experience really helped me with refereeing.
Now, what about your brother? I see your brother is an NHL linesman. How's that going? Is he still in the NHL?
He is, but Greg, he just had back surgery about 3 months ago, and he's not doing so well right now. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and I don't think we'll see him work this year. So,
do you think he'll work again?
What's that?
Do you think he'll work again?
I don't think so. I just think for the quality of life, he needs to be pain-free, and there's no sense trying to get back on the ice with a bad back like that. Like they put two big screws in the middle of his back, and
brutal.
Yeah, and poor guy, he's in a lot of pain.
Yeah, if I was him, I wouldn't come back. But hey, I mean, if he loves the sport, though, he probably will.
I know. Knowing him, he will.
What advice would you give him, though?
No, I said, Greg, just take your time. And I said, you don't have to come back. I said, you know what, just make sure you're healthy. Get well. And he says, yeah, I know. He's just, I know he's not comfortable. He's in a lot of pain. And, he just wants to get rid of the pain.
And I don't blame him. I would, too. I would. Yeah. Especially, something like that. That's brutal. Now, did he get that? Yeah. Did he get that in game, doing a game, or how did he get that?
I have no idea. I don't know what happened, whether he fell on the ice or what, but it could have been a long-term thing. And then he finally went in. Doctor says, you need surgery, and they went in and did it. And he just started therapy last week, and that was 4 to 6 weeks after his operation. So
that's brutal.
Yeah.
Hey, I gotta say, it was an awesome conversation. Again, I thank you. It was awesome.
All right, man.
You're more than more than happy to come on. I got your contact info. I'll text you. But yeah, you're more than welcome to come on as many times as you want if you don't mind doing that.
Alright, man. Thanks. Enjoy it. Thanks for inviting me.
Definitely. And if you want, I'll send you a copy of the episode so you can listen to it if you want.
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
Perfect. Alright.
Alright.
You be safe. You have you have a good weekend. Tell your brother be safe too. Don't do anything stupid. Get healthy first before deciding anything.
Yeah.
But you have a good night, alright?
Alright, thank you.
No problem. Goodbye. Paul Devorski, everybody. That concludes episode number 48 of Coffee Time. Fun talking with him about the rules of the game. He played it for about 20 years, 20, 25 years. Great conversation. So this concludes this episode. You all stay safe.